All right, we are back for video 2. So I just did an intro video that's already on YouTube. So hopefully everybody likes and subscribes it and watches it. And if you don't, I really don't care. No, honestly. But that's me. That's how I am, being my authentic self. If you like me, great. If you don't like me, that's okay too. It doesn't matter. We're all here on earth for various purposes and reasons and to resonate with various people. I hate that word, by the way. I'm going to use these like woo-woo terms and these spiritual terms that I don't necessarily like using anymore, but I just use them because I feel like the general population actually understands them more so than not. So, or resonates with them per se, right? But what's another word we could use for resonate? I don't know, and I'm an English teacher. Anyway, welcome to video number 2. What I'm going to do in this video is basically kind of like, in the first video I gave it, sorry, I'm trying to readjust everything. In the first video, I gave an intro to myself and what I plan on doing here and what I'm trying to accomplish with these videos. In this video, it's going to be more of a, just like a little background to me and like, who am I, why you should watch me, that type of thing. So, okay, here we go. First of all, I am a Taurus. I was born May 15th. And that's all you need to know. You don't need to know the date. Nobody's gonna, But I feel like being born in the 5th month of the year is very important. 5 tends to be my favorite number, so does 15. And then there's a lot of other stuff that comes into play with just the idea of like how many, my dad is like the 5th son and the 10th child of 10 children, 5 boys, 5 girls. I mean, come on, that's really strange, right? So it's like, the number 5 has always really like had an effect on me personally. And so that's my favorite number. And then just some other things about me. So I started on my spiritual journey when I was 6 years old. That's awfully young. But I had an experience when I was younger. I have vasovagal syncope. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not a medical person, so I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. And what happens is I tend to faint every now and again due to stress-related incidences or seeing blood or, whatever. So, anyway, I just checking some text message real quick. Put a smile on my face always. So I actually had an experience. My first experience was when I was 5 or 4. I don't know. I was in preschool. And I remember getting a finger prick for lead poisoning. And I I may have freaked out a little bit. I don't remember too much about it. But what I do remember is I was walking around the table afterwards, passing out napkins for snack time, right? And this is probably one of the first real memories I still have in my brain. And I remember I was walking around. I don't remember too many details, but all of a sudden I remembered I was on the floor and I'm looking up and there were my 2 preschool teachers looking at me, asking me if I was okay. I had no idea what had happened. Apparently I had passed out for whatever reason due to the stress of the situation of getting my finger pricked or whatever it was. And that was my first spiritual experience. And I say that because the more I've gone through these experiences, these phases of passing out when I'm stressed out, and it's basically one thing you should know about me is I label myself as a highly sensitive person. And what that means is that I'm neurodivergently different from other people. It is a real thing. You can Google it, highly sensitive person. I do workshops on it. What that means is that our brain is wired a little bit differently than normal people. I want to say normal, but like the average person, right? So our brains are wired a little bit differently. And this is what I do. I go off topic, off tangents. I'm not ADHD. I just will circle back around at some point to the original statement that I was making about being 6. So watch how I do this. Anyway, so what happens in a highly sensitive person is they're labeled sometimes as being oversensitive as children. They are labeled as being emotional. They cry easily at things. They're very sensitive to their surroundings. They feel like they don't fit in as a child. And I always felt like I don't know why my video keeps doing that. my computer screen tends to black out after a while, so I may just have to kind of put my finger on it, kind of like roll the little mouse thing around so it doesn't shut off on me. But anyway, so going back to what my statement was about highly sensitive people, they tend to, they feel more in depth, right? So I always felt like I wasn't, I don't know, there was something not right, like not wrong. There was nothing wrong with me, right? But there was something different. I always felt different, like I didn't fit in or something was strange. Like even in my huge family on my father's side, I tended to be, I was born like in the middle of everyone else. So all my cousins were either a lot older than me by like 2, 3, 4 years, in which case when you're 10 and people are 12, 13, 14, 15, they don't want anything to do with you, right? Or I was 5 years older than everybody else. So my brother is 5 years younger than me. And so it was like when I was 10, he was 5. And so it was a very interesting perspective that I had as a child growing up in a large, close-knit family, because we were at each other's, we were at my aunt's house on Sundays for Sunday dinner all the time. When I was really little, we used to get to go to holidays and parties and everything together. So it was like, when we say extended family, like Greek, I'm Armenian, right? So think Greek, Italian, all those large families that get together for the holidays and celebrations, and that was my family. My family was Armenian, and that's what we did, and it was amazing and wonderful, and I love it, and I'll tell you the story about them someday. But anyway, going back to that highly sensitive person aspect of not feeling like you fit in, preschool, you really don't pay attention to that. But then when I got into like elementary school, I noticed that things were more different. So I've always been like that. I just haven't noticed it, right? So then, because of the fact that I'm highly sensitive and I have a vasovagal response, see, I told you I didn't loop back around. What happened to me when I was 4 or 5 stemmed from the fact that my nervous system is indeed wired differently than most other people's nervous systems. And that stemmed off a whole series of incidences to follow. That vasovagal response is nothing to worry about. It's not serious. It doesn't cause any harm to your body. It's just it's a stimulus thing. Again, fight or flight response, and then boom, you go down. If you can't catch the symptoms right away. So for me at 5, that's what happened. And then when I was 6 years old, I had my first spirit tingle experience. Now, spirit tingles, energy tingles, whatever you want to call them, I didn't know they were a thing. All I knew was that it felt like somebody was taking my head and rubbing my scalp, and you get that really like awesome tingly feeling on your scalp. Well, what that is, actually what I found out that, now I just messed up my hair. What I found out that is actually energy. Like this is your crown chakra way up here. If you see behind me, wrong way, I have a chakra chart underneath this flyer. And chakras are energy centers in your body, right? Here we go again with jumping off tangents, but this is how I work. Energy centers in your body, and we'll talk about chakras in another session. But I kept feeling energy tingles at the top of my head and kind of going back down to the base of my skull when I was 6 years old, after my first grade teacher, Mrs. Canzano, passed back a test paper and I got like an A on it or something, and I was so excited. Now this happened, that first experience I had happened after I had had tubes put in my ears. So I had tube surgery back when I was that age. And I had anesthesia done, and when I got the anesthesia done, I can remember seeing images in my head while I was under. Cinderella, they were telling me a story about Cinderella, and I saw the clock tower, and I saw the slipper, and I saw Cinderella's pumpkin, and I saw the numbers in my head. And for me to remember that is very strange, right? But I do. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I didn't really remember that. Maybe if I go watch the movie Cinderella, they actually have that in the movie. I don't know. But all I remember is that's what happened to me. And I remember them putting a mask over my face, and I remember being really scared because I didn't want to fall asleep because I felt like it was going to go out of control. And so I ended up doing that. And then I came out of it, and I remember like being unaware of where I was kind of scared. But that experience kind of like, I think was a traumatic event. Even at 5, 6 years old, surgery is kind of traumatic, So I think that kind of started the process of my spiritual evolution. And I don't know why, I don't know how, it just did. My brother ended up, fainting while he was watching I probably shouldn't tell a story because he didn't give me permission to, so I'm not gonna. Candle played at one point, right? But anyway, so I what ended up happening was that I had this experience in first grade after that, sitting there and getting this tingling sensation in my head after getting a good grade on my paper. And I'm like, ooh, I like that feeling. What is that feeling? And how do I keep getting that feeling? And I really had no clue. 6 years old. But I was always different. I always used to talk to imaginary friends. And what was interesting was that later on in life, I had found out that I wasn't supposed to be the first child. Again, personal details, not going to go into it. I think you can kind of figure out what that means. But I always felt like I wasn't meant to be the first child in my family. And then I found out that that was true. That was something that actually was true in my life. So I've always had gifts that I've never really known about. They started happening when I was in 7th grade. My grandfather passed away, and he was the only grandfather I had known. And when he died, it really hurt me and hit me hard. I have an essay written in a book that is, it talks about that experience. I don't want to go into details here. I'm not going to share too many personal family moments in public. So I try to keep things, semi-personal. So, but anyway, so I lost him. And when I lost him, I was devastated. And it was my first real experience with death. And this is where everything happens, right? When we have death experiences, we're afraid because we don't understand the concept of death at a young age. We just know the person that we loved is gone and we're never going to see them again. For some reason, I felt that there was more to it than that. And that was in 7th grade. So I was around 11, 12 years old. Now remember, I had my first tingling experience at 6. I had imaginary friends growing up. Even though I couldn't see them, I just talked to them like I knew they were there. I always felt different. I felt like something was, I was always wanting to be into witchcraft. Like I loved the Wicked Witch of the West and Wizard of Oz, even though she scared me. And I loved Glinda, the Good Witch. And I was always attracted to these things. Like I would go to the library and I would sneak into the occult, back in the 70s and 80s, there was the occult section, right? And I used to sneak in the back and like look for, where's that book about ghosts? Like, where's that book about witches? And find things. And in high school, I bought this Edgar Cayce tape. It was a tape, and it was about astral projection. And so in high school, I had my first astral projection experience, which again, I'll talk to you about in another video. So let's see. So there was that. And then, as I grew up, I just had all these experiences. So when my grandfather passed away, I actually spoke with him, even after he had passed. And I'm like, just like he was still around for some reason or other. I didn't know what it meant. I wasn't intuitive enough to figure out that maybe I was actually talking to his spirit. But I remember one day I was like, hey, Grandpa, 17-year-old girl, and I was wanting to fall in love, right? Grandpa, I really want somebody to love me. I really want somebody to love me. Well, coincidentally, one day in August, my senior year of high school, I was supposed to babysit, and it got canceled, and I ended up going with my mom to her brother's, who was my grandfather's son, and I was playing. This was back in '91, and my cousin, my uncle worked for some computer company at the time, and my cousin got access to all this newfangled computer stuff, and so that was the first time I'd ever known about the internet as it was back then. It was a blackboard, right? Or a bulletin board, I think they called it. And you had local modems and they would dial up, that really weird noise. And so that was when I was first introduced to chatting online, because my cousin was playing a chess game with somebody that was on the other end of the computer. And that person and I met, and we fell in love, and we got pregnant, and we had my son, and I moved out to New York, and I was married to him for almost 30 years. And I'm blessed with a wonderful son that's 30, and I'm blessed with lovely, great, awesome memories to this person that, I still hold a dear place in my heart for. And that that experience set me on my spiritual path too. Like I moved away from home when I was 18, right after high school. I was supposed to go to college. So this, all of these things that I'm telling you sent me on my spiritual journey. And I truly believe that my grandfather had sent me that person in my life to marry and to fall in love with and to bring my son to this world. And they, and that from there stemmed more experiences with death. And we'll go into that. And I'll talk to you about my mediumship experiences with my own family members and then other things that I've had happen to me recently and in another video. But I've just been on this path that I don't regret anything in my life. Could I have done things differently at times? Absolutely. There were choices that I made that probably weren't the best choices in my life, like just the way I maybe treated people in my life or whatever. But do I regret anything that I ever, like anything I ever went on, like any journey and path I've taken? No, I have not, because it's all led me to this moment right here. If I had taken different pathways, I might not be on this path right now. And I feel like I am right now in my highest timeline. I know that's another woo-woo term. I'm serving the world's purpose by putting good and love and light and happiness and joy out there. And I feel like I am doing what I am meant to do on this planet. We all get stuck in these situations where we're, every job I've ever had too has led me to this point. So even when I was working at Walmart as a photo lab tech, or, that led me to learn how to do certain things. And then, getting let go from that, it didn't serve my purpose anymore. So I moved on to the next thing. So I've always been like a job gypsy, and because I've gone from job to job to job to job. And because it's always elevated me, it's always made me learn more things. And then I move on from that and I find something else. And so right now my career is English professor. I do teach for a school online, for a school out in New York online. So all my classes are held online. And I have a lot of fun with that. I'm getting tired of working for the big man on campus, or whatever you want to call it. So I'm hoping to start local writing workshops, because I do have a master's in English and creative writing, and I do have a book published, and I have another story, in another publication, and I'd really like to get some more stuff published, maybe eventually. But I feel like what I'm doing right now is helping people, and that's where I want to be in my life. And I feel so lucky to be in the place that I'm in right now. And I feel so grateful. I feel so grateful for, the people I have in my life, the people I've met, even the ones that are no longer in my life anymore. People I've had friends that I've loved and left, like I can't see myself with those friends anymore, because there was something about them. Either they were toxic, or they didn't vibe with me well, or like I said I had a Facebook video that I actually said something to. Sometimes people just come into your life that are meant to help you find your way to a certain level, and then they leave, or you stop contacting them, and that's okay. The most important people that are supposed to be in your life, you will always either find a way back to, or they will never leave, because they just evolve into something different. And that is perfectly fine. And so understand and accept that's what it is. It was really hard for me to come to grips with the ending of my relationship with a person that I really loved truly and deeply. And, but I realized that it was time to move on, that we had served our purpose for each other in that aspect of things. And, and then we had to distance ourselves from each other. And I think we're at a good place now. I hopefully will be in a healthier place eventually. But, where we are now is a decent place. And I think that's, where we need to be at this moment. So I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see what happens. But the people that I'm meeting now, I'm like really spiritually on the same level as them. And it's been really amazing. And it's been super Like, just the friends I have now are just, I don't have very many. Like, I don't consider myself having a big group of close knit friends. But the ones that I do have, they're just, I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed to have them. And my family. I love my family so much. So I'm so grateful for my family as well, because they're being really extra supportive. So that is all for today, at least for this post. I might keep doing another one. I don't know, what time is it? It's 4:30 now. My shop's open for another hour and a half. I do have to get some essay grading done. I did 2, so maybe go back and do another one. So I don't know. Maybe I'll do another video feed and then post it tomorrow. We'll see. But yep, just like, follow, share, subscribe. Find me. You can go to bohemiancove.com. You can find me on Facebook, Bohemian Cove Magical Creations and more. Like and follow the Facebook page. That's my store, my storefront in Haverhill. And this is connected to that because this is all growing together. So peace, love, joy, happiness to all of you. I'll see you soon.